Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to our monthly program ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities. My name is Dr. Wilfried. As you know, I'm a board member of the Human Development Forum Foundation, a Thai registered foundation running ASEAN-related programs in English as well as strategic workshops on ASEAN topics. Our main topic, ASEAN challenges and opportunities, normally are facing on economic and security issues, but we are a little bit short in the issues on the social cultural pillar of ASEAN. To compensate this problem, we thought that we are bringing a little bit more attention to this last pillar and to the work of international NGOs. To clarify some of the key questions of INGO work in the ASEAN community, in the framework of child protection, I invited today Mr. Rasa Sekulovic from Plan International, where he is the Regional Head of Child Protection. Good evening, Rasa.
Good evening.
And we are looking forward for interesting discussion.
Thank
but first, please introduce yourself briefly.
Hello and good evening. Thank you again for your kind interest and invitation. My name is Rasa Sekulovic and I'm the Regional Head of Child Protection with Plan International Asia Regional Office. I've been with Plan International for the past 8 years and we cover 14 countries in Greater Asia region. So my role is essentially to extend technical support when it comes to different child protection initiatives and also to help my colleagues and civil society actors on the ground increase their skills, knowledge and understanding when it comes to child protection.
Okay, thank you very much for this short introduction. And now we have a brief commercial break.
มันเป็นขยะแต่รู้ไหมว่าขยะเหล่านี้สามารถนำมารีไซเคิลเป็นสมุดสิ่งที่มีค่าสำหรับพวกเขาได้ด้วยแนวคิดการใช้ทรัพยากรธรรมชาติอย่างรู้คุณค่าและให้เกิดประโยชน์สูงสุดทำให้ดอนเมืองโทเวย์ได้เริ่มดำเนินโครงการสมุดกรีนเวย์โครงการเพื่อยกระดับสิ่งแวดล้อมให้คงอยู่ชั่วลูกชั่วหลานตราบนานเท่านานโทเวย์กรีนเวย์
นี่เป็นความสุขของคนไทยจำนวนหนึ่งที่ได้เข้าถึงสุขภาพที่ดีเข้าถึงการศึกษาที่เท่าเทียมเข้าถึงอาชีพที่ยั่งยืน USO ยังคงขยายโครงข่ายบรอดแบนด์เข้าถึงพื้นที่ห่างไกลอีกกว่า 80% ทั่วประเทศ USO ภารกิจการจัดให้มีบริการโทรคมนาคมพื้นฐานโดยทั่วถึงและบริการเพื่อสังคมโดยกสทช.
Welcome back to our ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities program in English. Today our main topic is ASEAN Community, Social Cultural Pillar and Child Protection. So without any further delay, let's jump into the topic. Rasa, can you tell us what does mean child protection?
Thank you for this simple question that doesn't have a very simple answer, because in order to understand child protection, we need to understand different forms and types of violence against children. It is important to understand that violence against children, unfortunately, has been affecting children all over the world, in developed and developing countries alike. So it's not necessarily linked only with the poverty. It has multiple factors and reasons and causes. And in that sense, child protection, by child protection we mean all the measures that we take to prevent violence against children and to respond to different forms of violence against children. Now again, just to clarify a little bit, different forms of violence against children, it's a very broad term, And here we are speaking about any kind of violence that implies abuse of power or any kind of harmful influences, including child labor, different kind of exploitative practices, but also different kind of traditional and harmful practices that unfortunately are pervasive throughout our region, such as child marriage or different kind of traditions that are not necessarily conducive for children's development and growth. So when we speak about child protection, we also need to remember that child protection is a right. Child protection has been defined within the rights-based framework by different international treaties, documents and conventions that all the governments and all the member states of ASEAN had ratified and voluntarily embraced and endorsed. So in that sense, it's important to remember that all children have a right to be protected, that it's not a matter of anybody's goodwill or charity or pity on children, but it's basically the right of every child, every girl and every boy to be protected from all forms of violence against children. And it's also important to remember that different people and different parts of the society have different roles and responsibilities to play when it comes to child protection. It's good to know and to understand that first of all we need to have good laws that are defining protective measures, and also we need to have good child protective services that need to be well resourced, and people who are working in these services need to be well trained, but also we need to have very good law enforcement agencies. When it comes to child protection, it's extremely important that different sectors are working together, and it's always important to remember that everybody has a role to play: civil society, families, communities, but more than anybody else, governments, because governments are responsible for countries, for overall growth and development, and so they are for children, families and communities.
Okay, this was a very good and deep interpretation of child protection. Can you give some concrete examples in some ASEAN countries, what you are doing to improve the protection of the children?
What is important again to understand is that the whole global community realize that we need to move from segmented and fragmented interventions, because we can have many projects, and Plan International, similarly to other international organizations or civil society organizations and of course governments, have been invested a lot in different projects, in different interventions, in different initiatives. But what is really important is to strengthen national child protection systems, those systems that bring together good laws, good policies when it comes to child protection, systems that have strong, effective services that actually prevent violence against children and respond to violence when it happens, and also ensure that there is a timely rehabilitation and reintegration of those children or families that have actually suffered or endured situations involving violence against children. So what I'm trying to relay is that we are all trying our best to strengthen national child protection systems, to make sure that the laws are child sensitive or child friendly, that there is a proper investment in child protection or child protective services. So when violence happens, those services can be there for children and families, and also the different sectors are working together. So there's a lot of examples of Plan International's interventions when it comes to strengthening national child protection systems across the Asia region and across the ASEAN community, including producing different practical tools, methodologies on child protection, advocating for good, robust and child-sensitive laws, Also training wide variety of stakeholders, training governmental officials, training civil society colleagues, also service providers. But also what is really important to point out is that we invest a lot in helping children better protect themselves, because we can easily understand that adults can never be with children 24 hours a day. So this is why one of the very important interventions by Plan International has been helping children from the earliest age to learn how to recognize different risks related to violence against children, how to come up with collective actions within their children's groups, whether in their schools or in their communities, and also how to grow up with protection. In that sense, we've been also extending a lot of support to community-based child protection mechanisms in different remote communities, in different urban communities, but at the same time, we have extended a lot of support to different regional ASEAN level interventions, and I'm very happy to remind everyone of the recent major breakthroughs when ASEAN last year has actually adopted the first ever regional action plan on elimination of violence against children, which is very comprehensive regional plan that remains to be translated at the national level with all the member states, where Plan International and other international organizations, including UN agencies, extended a lot of support. And that followed by the adoption of the regional guidelines on positive child rearing and positive parenting. So as you can realize, we are never out of work. This is one area, child protection is one area where we can never finish with our job, and there's a lot of multi-level interventions that we need to actually juggle at the same time while working closely together.
Okay, you talk about the region, but talking about the communities a little bit, can you give some concrete example how you train people for child protection or to raise awareness for child protection?
Absolutely, and with pleasure. Across our region, we've been investing significant amounts of funds and also expertise into building capacities of community members, for example, how to prevent and how to reduce and how to minimize, for example, gender-based violence, violence that is affecting particularly girls and women, that unfortunately is pervasive across the region. Also, there's a number of initiatives that are focusing on prevention and also response to human trafficking, because as we know, this is one of the problems that has been pestering our region, and where again multi-sectoral coordination and collaboration is working. But what's important to remember is that everything starts from home, everything starts from family, and everything happens within communities. So we've been trying to invest in this kind of interventions when different forms of violence against children, including violence in the home, violence in the family, or gender-based violence, or human trafficking, or even child labor, have been prevented or responded to through different, again, joint efforts by government, civil society actors, but also families and communities with the involvement of children whenever and wherever this is appropriate.
Okay, I think this is a very good point, because one of the things is we are talking about a regional concept, but we should not forget the small area of family community which contribute most of it in terms of child protection, while the regional framework and national framework provides the legal frameworks. Okay, thank you very much for that, and we have another commercial break.
มันเป็นขยะแต่รู้ไหมว่าขยะเหล่านี้สามารถนำมารีไซเคิลเป็นสมุด สิ่งที่มีค่าสำหรับพวกเขาได้ด้วยแนวคิดการใช้ทรัพยากรธรรมชาติอย่างรู้คุณค่าและให้เกิดประโยชน์สูงสุดทำให้ดอนเมืองโทเวย์ได้เริ่มดำเนินโครงการสมุทรกรีนเวย์โครงการเพื่อยกระดับสิ่งแวดล้อมให้คงอยู่ชั่วลูกชั่วหลานตราบนานเท่านานโทเวย์กรีนเวย์
ปลาอะไรเนี่ยเป็นมากี่วันแล้วคะ
หลายวันแล้วจ้าหมอ
การวินิจฉัยที่รวดเร็วเป็นสิ่งสำคัญด้วยโครงข่ายอินเทอร์เน็ตความเร็วสูงเพื่อสาธารณสุขทางไกลการติดต่อแลกเปลี่ยนข้อมูลระหว่างโรงพยาบาลเครือข่ายสามารถทำได้ทันทีมาถูกทางแล้วล่ะ USO ภารกิจการจัดให้มีบริการโทรคมนาคมพื้นฐานโดยทั่วถึงและบริการเพื่อสังคมครอบคลุมทั่วถึงทัดเทียมทั่วไทยโดยกส
Welcome back to our English program, ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities. Today we had the topic child protection in ASEAN, and our guest, Mr. Rasa from Plan International, pointed out some very key points of the child protection idea. First of all, there is violence against children, and we have to recognize it, and for that we have multiple causes, but also a multiple way of approaching for solutions. While organizations like Plan International have a holistic approach, governments mostly have a legalistic approach. So in the end, everybody has to work together for the protection of the children. But I don't want to talk too much. I want to give a chance to Russia to give a big final statement. What would be your take on child protection in ASEAN in, let's say, a minute statement?
What is very important to always remember when it comes to child protection, which is preventing and responding violence against children, is that we need more evidence because it's oftentimes happening in secrecy behind the closed doors, and at the same time we need much more investment into child protection because children are now, and the quality of every childhood will determine what kind of adults, what kind of citizens tomorrow children will grow into. And the final message to everyone is that everyone has a role to play, from children to governments.
Okay, thank you very much.
Most welcome.
What we had today is another concentration on the ASEAN social cultural pillar, which gives us the opportunity to look at the youngest members of our society. And with these youngest members, we have to be very careful. And I think it's in your idea as well to say the family is the core, but it needs a lot of layers around to get the things properly done. In this context, one question for the parents programs. Do you have any kind of parent programs for child protection?
Absolutely. Increasingly, there's been realization that parents need a lot of support. They are under the greatest burden. So there's been a lot of programs around how to help parents learn more and better about child development. What are the critical stages in development of every child when they need proper stimulation, proper support, a lot of love and care, needless to say, because there's no school for parenting, but we are trying to support parents to learn and to gain these skills so that they can also be more patient, more knowledgeable, and to know how to respond to different reactions by children, and also how to use different positive parenting skills, non-violent child rearing, and how to actually help their children growing to become loving, caring, and self-reliable citizens.
I think this is an interesting point. In fact, we have a lot of graduations, doctor degrees, master degrees, bachelor degrees, but we don't have a degree for parents.
Exactly, that's something that we keep on practicing for the rest of our lives. But the good news is there's more and more resources and more opportunities for parents to really do that job, if I may say, because it's a full-time job, properly and also to their best satisfaction.
Okay, thank you very much. Maybe as
you.
a last thought, it's not just money. The care for the children is the key point. And if the kids playing too much on their mobile phones and tablets, maybe a little bit of parental guidance and parental love can help to protect the children from future problems. Thank
Absolutely.
you, Rasa,
Thank
very
you too.
much.
Most welcome.
Thank you for the team before and behind the camera, and we see each other next month for our English program, ASEAN Community Challenges and Opportunities. Thank you very much.